Okay, so we'll be covering system hardening, system logging, and intrusion detection today. Last Monday, not last Monday, 2 days ago, we covered what's a CTF, generic CTF prep, and specific CTF prep for this CTF. We also covered some incident response. Some things that I would say you should really be looking at are definitely system hardening, potentially system logging, and potentially intrusion detection. The last two are if you feel like you can handle it. So, let's just dive in, and we'll get to that part later. Okay, system hardening. I really think you should take a good look at what are called STIGs, Secure Technical Implementation Guide. There we go. Secure Technical Implementation Guide. Good little change there. So STIGs are what the government often uses, generally the military, and we use them as hardening guides. So it lets us know how to really lock down something. The reason I like them is they have STIGs for pretty much everything. Windows, Unix, Linux, applications, Oracle, that kind of stuff. You can pretty much get a STIG for pretty much anything. So for a CTF, they're really good to have handy because you often don't know what you will be playing with in a CTF. You don't know what someone's going to give you. So having something like that close by is usually pretty good to have. The next thing I would say to look at is hardening guides. So hardening guides are pretty important just because hardening guides are not as thorough as STIGs. So hardening guides are nice to have because they tend to be pretty down and dirty. Just here, take this, do this, and this to secure the server. Whereas a STIG usually is a couple of hundred pages, so usually pretty intense. Hardening guides may not have real good instructions on how to do something, where a STIG usually will have really detailed instructions on how to do something. So you might want to have both, right? You might want to have a hardening guide. When it tells you to do something, you might look up how to do it in a STIG, as an example. Some generic hardening resources, just basically Google searches, website searches for the topic of server hardening. Excuse me, sorry about that. Definitely think you should have that stuff around. So when you're thinking about system hardening, your first thing to do is get your checklist together. Sort them, organize them. Figure out, okay, if I have Windows 2000, 2003, 2008, 2012, here are my lockdown guides that I want to use, and you have them sorted, ready to go. Do the same thing for specific applications. You're going to be dealing with, PeopleSoft or Oracle or whatever. Get those things ready to go. Have them ready. The next thing that you want to do is you want to collect as many hardening tools as you can. The Microsoft Baseline Security Analyzer is a really good one. It's pretty common, and I think you really want to have it for sure. Another thing I really think you should look at is benchmark assessment tools. So the same place that you get your benchmarks from, cisecurity.org. Oh, excuse me. Sorry about that. Can't stop yawning. So the same place that you get that, they actually have an archive of hardening tools. And I would definitely grab those. All of your system audit tools, so audit configurations of things, you definitely want to have those at the ready. And you want to have used them a couple of times before the game. You don't want this to be the first time that you do this stuff, right? You want to run the stuff before the game, start getting an idea of what this stuff is going to be like. Okay. The next thing that I know people are reluctant to do, but what I absolutely think is super important to CTFs is scripting. Hands down, scripting. Scripting, 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 scripting. Trust me, you need scripting. So I think scripting is really important. A lot of people, they're really intimidated with scripting. Hey, you know, I'm not a programmer. You know, I feel reluctant. You know, I might be able to do a batch file or something like that, but that's about the extent of it. And if you're even confident enough to say, hey, I'd be willing to throw together a batch file, that's a step in the right direction. That's what you need. So the fastest way to really learn scripting is to get really good at a command prompt. If you're pretty good at a command prompt, anything that you put in the script is basically what you do in a command prompt, just sequence so that it all runs one after another. So that's really your introduction to scripting. Then you just got to find good resources for security things that you would want to do with your scripting. So, excuse me, here's some pretty good resources. Command Line Kung Fu, Microsoft scripting, simple Windows batch scripting. These are all things that you really should do. I would look at these links really, really hard. I actually ran across a book that really kind of shocked me. So today I was, doing some Googling around and came across this book called Perl Scripting for Windows Security. Now, I haven't bought the book. I haven't read the book. I don't know the author. But, from just a real quick of looking at it that I did on Amazon, where you can actually, do the look inside of the book and all of that, it actually looked pretty helpful. It looked like some stuff that you could do in this game. So I was thinking, wow, that looks pretty interesting. That's something different. It's definitely not what I expected to see, but good, definitely good. So something to think about. Okay, the next thing I would say to really, really think about is continuous monitoring. You just don't want to set it and forget it, right? A CTF is not a Ronco. There is absolutely nothing in a CTF game that you can just do one time. I mean, nothing. There's always something that you will more than likely have to repeat. There's always something you will have to check and make sure that it was done, and more importantly, make sure that it hasn't changed. So be conscious that other teams may have somebody who is really smart. And I don't mean really smart like you're going to lose. Just because a team has one or two players that are really, really super good at something, it's a team game. So the best team will win, not the best player. So just because any one particular team may have a really skilled attacker, it's very unlikely that just having a really skilled attacker is going to win the game. Same thing with having a really skilled defender. It's more than likely not going to win the game for you. So, but that doesn't mean don't worry about it. It doesn't mean you shouldn't care about it. When you deal with people who are very skilled, you're going to have to find that you may not know how he did it. You just know that he or she did it, and you better frickin' fix it. So anything that you've done in terms of security configuration, I would definitely look at having some script that checks it, and then really looking at continuous monitoring, repeatedly checking it to make sure that it has not changed. So, whoops. Oh, that's a mess up in these slides. Man, I really messed up these slides. Sorry about that. Okay, well, let's jump to system login. What I was going to show was system automation, so I guess I messed up my slide somewhere, but I'll come back to that. All right, next thing, Windows login. When it comes to creating logs, a lot of people, they claim, yeah, but won't this be in the logs? But what you'll often find is very few people really understand logs. So I think the biggest thing that you're going to need to start with is if you want to get into system logging during the game, you want to make sure that you really have a pretty good handle on how Windows logging works. So get a good feel for how Windows logging works. Here's some links for tutorials that'll help you with that. Get a really good quick cheat sheet reference for exactly what the common event IDs are. So, if you see a 520, you want to know what it is, right? Now, for system logging, there's actually a pretty healthy chunk of free tools out there for system logging. The one that I think is so neglected is the Microsoft Log Parser. So right at the first link for free tools, you have what's called the Microsoft Log Parser. The Microsoft Log Parser is a free log parser that allows you to pretty much deal with any kind of Windows logs. I mean, any of them. So if it's IIS logs, if it's system logs, your Microsoft Log Parser can rip through that stuff and sort it. You have to use an SQL syntax, but it's a free command line tool. Now, something that's really interesting is Log Parser Lizard and Visual Log Parser are two free GUI front ends for it. So you want to get comfortable using the Microsoft Log Parser so you can rip through your logs and figure out what's going on. The second thing that you want to do is get yourself a tutorial. This is all stuff, you don't want this to be your first time doing this. You need to be doing this stuff before the game. You need to be doing this stuff before the game. You don't want to be in the game and it's your first time using the Microsoft Log Parser. Now, if you really want to take it to the next level, right? I'm not trying to say this is something you do on the fly, but if you really want to take it to the next level, what I think you should look at is Splunk. So if you want to build up Splunk and configure it with some custom queries and that kind of thing, it's definitely some interesting stuff that you can do with Splunk. But like I said, it's not for the faint of heart. If you're going to do Splunk, I would definitely be working on it probably today or tomorrow so that you know it's ready to go by next week's game. Okay, next thing. Come up with a list of queries you plan to run. If you're going to be looking at logs, generally in a game, you're going to have so much happening. There's going to be so many logs happening, being created, so many events being created. You need a way to very, very quickly figure out what in the world is going on. So these two links where it says good queries to run have lists of queries that you would want to run. Show me the last 10 accounts created, show me the last, passwords that have been reset, show me, the last user accounts with failed logins, that sort of thing. Those are the types of things that you're going to run against log files. So that's why I think these are good. Now, all these things, you want to have these ready to go. You want to have tried them, seen what the output looks like, and then when you run them, you want to be able to run them in the game. Now, that kind of takes me to automation. So I just didn't know what my slide was. You really want to start thinking about Windows automation. If you have specific things that you do or check for, you want to have your automation that checks those things for you. If you have a configuration script, it would be a very good idea to have your system automation stuff go through and periodically reconfigure everything the way you want, or check to make sure that things are set the way you want, and then write something to a file so that you know that it's all done correctly, so you can just at a quick glance just check and go, okay, yep, I know that stuff is all set up, this is correct, this is correct, this is correct. So as a defender, there's an awful lot you could be doing with a system, and you want to have these things built up and done and ready to rock and roll, so that as the game is playing, people are going to ask you questions. Are we okay with blah? You want to be able to fire back, yep, got that under control. Okay, let's see what we got here. Automation Puppet Enterprise. So that's the kind of thing that we want to have ready to go. Okay, the next area of focus is intrusion detection systems. So logging, system hardening, you have to do. You absolutely cannot play this game without system hardening. You will get crushed. Logging, you do not have to do it to play this game. You don't have to. It's nice. It'll really be a nicety, but not required. You can play the game without setting up verbose logging. You can play the game without setting up intrusion detection. It's a nicety, not a requirement. You're going to find that really digging in and doing all the verbose logging is a lot of work. So on a scale of 1 to 10 of a lot of work, 1 being the least, 10 being the most, setting up a lot of verbose logging and scripted things to check and figure out what's going on, you're going to find that's probably like a 7. If you're going to set up intrusion detection, in terms of like amount of work, think 9 on a scale of 1 to 10. It's a lot of work. If you're going to be dealing with throwing up an IDS, you're going to have quite a bit of work. Let me see, we got a question here. Would both the attacking and to be defended boxes be windows? Okay, the defending boxes that you must defend is a Windows server per team. One Windows server per team will need to be defended. As far as attackers, you can run anything you want. If you want to run my attack distribution that I give you guys, that's fine. If you want to run Kali or Backtrack, that's fine. If you want to just connect to the VPN with your Mac, that's fine. Attackers can be absolutely anything, completely up to you. Oh, Trevor says that for Windows, Microsoft Security Compliance Manager can be quickly applied. That's probably something I should throw in there. Okay. All right, so let's talk about IDS. Now, if you're going to do the IDS stuff, start with the basics. If you're going to run an IDS, do you have the resources to run it? Okay, I really think if you're going to run an IDS, you want to do it on something like VMware Workstation or VMware ESXi. I really think that you want to have a pretty beefy box if you want to do it. I think you should dedicate at least 2 gig of RAM to your IDS. I also think you should run your IDS on the same physical server as you run your defensive server virtual machine. So the reason I say that is it just makes network configuration for the IDS much easier. So if you have one virtual machine that runs the server that you're defending on the same host that the defensive server is running, the team server, if that same host, you would run the intrusion detection system as a virtual machine on the same physical host. You've got to have enough resources to do that. I strongly recommend that you allocate somewhere between 2 and 4 gig of RAM to the team server that you're defending and 2 gig of RAM to the IDS. And the network IDS needs to be on the same physical subnet as the team server that you're defending. The reason for that is when someone attacks the team server, you want to ensure that any attacks that are going to the team's server can be seen by the IDS. So let's say we're all playing in a team and, there's 5 of us. Well, one person is running the VPN gateway. We're all logged into, we're all on the same network as him. He's got the VPN gateway. One person is running the team server, and we're all defending it. We're all on the same network. That's great. The server, the host that's running the team server should also be the host that's running the IDS. Because if you put it on another person's workstation, then what you're going to run into is you're going to have a difficult time, unless the network is wireless, ensuring that everybody gets on, ensuring that the IDS sees the traffic that's going to the target virtual machine, the team server. Now, can you work around this? Can you configure VLANs and trunking and tunneling and, route traffic through the IDS? Yes, you can. But I'm just saying, for the ease of configuration, running on the same server is the easiest. I do not recommend that you run your VPN gateway on the same server, same physical host that you run your team server on. But I certainly can't stop you. Whatever works for you is what you need to do. Okay. For those of you that have never had to drive an IDS, it's a lot of work. It really is. So if you're going to be using an intrusion detection system, you should really, really think about it and really try to get that thing running at least a few days before the game. You do not want to set the thing up the morning of the game and then start using it. You want to run it a couple of times. You want to do a bunch of attacks with this thing recording. You want to make sure that this thing can see the attacks. Okay, Mike's saying that he's having trouble with the audio, saying that he's losing audio. Is anyone else having issues with audio? Okay, it seems to be working for other people. Okay, sorry about that, bud. Okay, Trevor's saying that he had issues Monday, and he just had to disconnect and reconnect. Okay, definitely a full day or so before the game, you want to be able to attack the host server, the team server, and make sure that the IDS is recording that traffic. You want to be able to see it. You want to, verify that it's doing what you want. And, get used to being able to, clear alerts, eliminate false positives, track IPs, all that kind of stuff. You want to be able to do all that way before the game starts. Have a good handle on how all that stuff works before the game starts. And the reason I'm telling you to do this is because there's so many different consoles. You could be in Snorby, you could be in Squeal, you could be in, all these different base and all these different safe. There's so many different consoles just to snort, for example. It could be each console takes time to learn, even to do really trivial things like, sort by IP address. You got to get used to that console. So you want to make sure that you're trying to do that stuff ahead of time and get comfortable with that console ahead of time. Okay, the next thing is you've got to decide what you want to deploy. And do you want to deploy a network-based IDS? Do you want to deploy a host-based IDS? Or do you want to deploy both? So on the network-based IDS, you've got Snort, Suricata, Bro, those are the popular ones. You've got OSIC for the host-based ones. They're good. I'm not going to say that they're not good. They're all good. They each got little quirks. Snort is by far probably the most popular. Suricata has really kind of come along. Suricata is multi-threaded. I don't know that you're really going to see that much of a difference between Snort, Suricata. Bro, I don't use Bro, so I can't really give you good. I can't really give you a very good explanations of Bro because I've just never used it. So you want to install an intrusion prevention system. That would be against the rules, yes. Okay, quick things to think about. So network-based IDSs are good, but they tend to be really false positive prone. I mean, you tend to just light up like a Christmas tree with a network-based IDS, so be ready for that. Host-based IDSs are good, but they usually require something on the host, and you need to be conscious, be very, very conscious that installing something on the host can often take away from the performance. Yeah, Trevor, yep, no bit 9, no endpoint security, none of that stuff. Sorry, bud. Okay. All right, now your best solution is going to be to combine, go with some sort of hybrid IDS solution where you've got both network and both network and host-based coverage. The problem with this is it can be a lot of work. So remember we were talking about deploying an IDS as a 9. If you're going to deploy network and host, that's usually going to be a pain in the butt. So it's just a lot of work. So what do I recommend that you do? I recommend that you focus on doing whatever gives you the most bang for your buck. So for this game, if you're going to go down this road, I would strongly recommend that you think about deploying something like Security Onion or OSIM. The reason that I would recommend these is because they're really fast to deploy and they give you a lot of tools. So, for example, you'll quickly have, NetFlow, and Ether8, and NTOP, in addition to Snort and, Nagios and all these other cutesy little security tools that you're going to find to be really, really helpful. Having them deployed in something like Security Onion or Snort just makes building all of this stuff so much faster. You're pretty much going to be able to just install Security Onion or install Awesome, go through the wizard, and then point your defensive server at it, and you're done. So you can pretty much get either Security Onion or an OSIM box, usually up in less than an hour, and it's up and running. And then it might take you another hour to really kind of tune it the way you want it. But inside of a couple of hours, you can usually have this thing running pretty well. And they're both usually pretty friendly to being run in a virtual machine. So I would strongly recommend that if you are going to go the intrusion detection route, try to go with something like a security onion and an awesome. The reason I say both, either one, because either one will give you the ability to run your host-based stuff as well, right? They're both going to allow you to run OSIC in addition to Snort. So that just makes things so much easier in that regard. Okay. What do you recommend for minimizing false positives? Oh, alcohol. There's just not too much out there. The problem with dealing with false positives is you literally got to see a bunch of attacks happening and then realize, oh, that's just blah, blah, blah traffic. Now, I personally do not think you need to tune your security onion, alien vault, awesome deployment. I think you just need to get that sucker on, get that sucker feeding alerts, and then, you know, potentially be able to whitelist your own team IPs. You know, those would be the kind of things I'd be looking to get going first. So let's get all of the logging and, you know, all those things configured, you know, for whatever product we choose, and then give me a list of all my team IPs so I can get to whitelisting. And then we really need to have, in my opinion, at least 2 people dedicated to it. So if you're going to run in a security onion or something like that, if it were me, I'd try to have 2 people physically on the server doing defensive stuff on the server. I'd try to have 2 people physically on the security onion or awesome box, just handling alerts, talking to the server people, hey, did you see that? This and this happened. Are you okay? You know, so the 4 of them would work in tandem. And then I'd try to have 2 offensive people taking information from the IDS team and the Windows Defender team, you know, so that they kind of know what to try. And then I try to get those guys communicating with the researchers. You know, everybody should be asking the researchers what to look up. And that would kind of be how I'd try to run it. I would try to run the game with at least 4 people. It'd be nice if you can have that much. The other thing that you want to be able to have is you want to be able to have the ability to allow people to leave during the game. Now, you know, people have lives. So some people might only be able to play for like 6 or 8 hours or 3 hours or whatever. So if you don't have a team, remember, anyone who's not on the team today will be placed on a team tomorrow. So you're going to need to work with your team and figure out, are you going to be an offensive person, a defensive person, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, Naroon, that's okay. Not a problem, Naroon. I'm okay with that. Okay, Darren, if you had a teammate sign up, I just need to know who that teammate is, you know, when I'm setting everybody up, and I'll get you all squared away. Yeah, I'll get you all squared away when I'm making teams, because I'm going to be making teams tonight and tomorrow, kind of bundling everybody up. Okay. All right, guys, so just thinking defensive stuff, you know, think about everything that we covered Monday. You know, think about the stuff that we covered today, you know, setting up an IDS, and just if you're going to go the IDS route, this is a lot of work. What I would strongly recommend that you do is build a virtual machine. If you're going to, let's say you're going to do an IDS, build a virtual machine, set the virtual machine to DHCP, get it rolling. I mean, have that sucker ready to go. That way your virtual machine is done. Maybe over the next 2 to 3 days you get the virtual machine built, and then the team will be ready to use it. This is all stuff that you want to start getting together. Okay. Now the slides I'm going to be emailing out tonight. Whoops. All I did was add to the same slides that we already had. So the slides from Monday, all I did was add to them the content from today. And I'm just going to keep doing that. So when I email out these slides, you'll get the video, you'll get the updated slides, and anything that you need to do, I would definitely say aggressively look at these slides and start using these slides to make a battle plan for the CTF, right? So this covers all of our defensive stuff. Tomorrow we assign teams, and Monday we start testing VPN. So we'll start testing VPN connectivity on Monday. Wednesday we'll start testing scoring server connectivity. So we want to get everybody's VPN stuff set up on Monday. Wednesday we want to make sure that everybody can get their team server going. Friday I will make the actual team servers available to each respective team. And then the game will begin. Friday you'll get the email of, the time to download that server, and the party will begin. Okay. I haven't decided what time Friday, but I'm trying to think what would be the best thing to do without giving you too much time. I got a feeling I'll probably let it fly Friday afternoon, or maybe Friday night, for you guys to download the actual team virtual machine. Yeah, not a problem, Jason. You can do that. Are we still doing Pen Testers Weekend Boot Camp this weekend? I want to. I really want to do it this weekend. I've got some thoughts on maybe I should move it just so I can keep working on the CTF and do some debugging. So we'll know in the next day or so if I'm going to have to reschedule that weekend boot camp, because right now I'm working with developers, sysadmins, and we're doing a lot of work to make sure that this CTF is going to fly. So because people are paying for the CTF, I really got to make sure that this stuff works. The free boot camp, I hate to be so mean about it, but for stuff that people are paying for, I got to put more attention to it. So I might be in a situation where I may have to move the boot camp, but the plan is to run it right now. Okay. Pentester Night class certs, I have not got those done. Got to kick me in the butt because I need to get them done. Am I doing tonight's session video? Yes. Will the server VM have internet connectivity? Yes. Will you be able to upload scripts and tools to it? Yes. The server will have VMware tools installed? Yes. So you should be able to drag and drop to it. Yeah, not a problem. If I'm going to reschedule the boot camp, it will be tomorrow that I reschedule it. We're just going to see how the developers and the sysadmins are doing tonight. If everybody's on schedule, we'll let the boot camp run. If there's problems and there's stuff I need to fix, then we'll move the boot camp. Oh, I'm sorry, Jason. I really apologize if you wake up in the middle of the night for the class and find out I've canceled it. Yeah, I will let you know at least a full day in advance if we're not going to run it. I do apologize for that. And like I said, it's the free stuff that I try to, sometimes I have to move, because if there's something paying, people pay for stuff. You got to give people the stuff they paid for. So let's see. I think we got all that stuff under control. So tomorrow, teams. Anybody from Women's Cyber Jutsu? Anybody from Women's Cyber Jutsu here? Okay. All right. So any of the people from Women's Cyber Jutsu, I just got off the phone with Lisa, and we're going to try to do another run of this on Sunday. So just a quick heads up for you guys. We're going to try to do another run of this on Sunday. I want to make sure the VPN and scoring server stuff work. Okay, so the subnet stuff. The subnet stuff is not a must. It is just a recommendation. So, if you're going to play, on the game, and just to be on the safe side, it's nice to put yourself on an isolated subnet so there's nothing for anyone participating in the game to attack. But flat out not a requirement. If you're going to be on your own home network or anything like that, you're fine. Exactly. The whole subnet idea is just to try to add as much protection to your home network and your home infrastructure as possible. I know pretty much everybody playing. Almost every single participant is a student, friend. I know most people, so I personally do not believe you have much to worry about. But if you're going to be playing games like this, there's no point in being careless. Okay. All right. So, Darren, if you need to call me, I'm about to button this up. You can give me a call right now. Yeah, I don't think it's that much of a concern to worry if your own personal machine will be hacked. But again, these are the types of things that when you're with your team, you want to discuss how you and your team are going to configure the network, configure security for the game, all that sort of stuff. Can you set up VLANs? You certainly can. Again, that's completely up to you. All I care about is, can my scoring server reach your scoring server? Your team server. That's really all I care about. That'll be what I'm focused on. Okay, and we're going to spend the bulk of next week really, really, really working to make sure that VPN and network connectivity and all that stuff works. Okay, guys? Okay, Reggie, just joined Monday. Make sure applicable comms for the class. Okay. All right. Look, Reg, send me an email. Jason, send me an email. I'll get you guys both what you need. Jason, I'll get you the link. Darren and Reggie, make sure I know which of you is on what team and all that kind of stuff. Also, since I'm making teams tomorrow, one last time, guys, if you got a friend that you're trying to drug deal and coerce them into getting in the game, try to do it tonight, please. We really don't want to be late in the game next week adding team members and stuff like that. So let's really try to get them in tonight, and you know, I'll try and get that taken care of. Okay. No problem, Narun. We're okay. All right, guys. Any questions for me? Will I place you on a team if you've not signed up for the actual game? I sure hope not. Can't say mistakes don't happen, but I sure hope not. For all the links that I shared, is there a lot of reading? Yeah, there's an unbelievable amount of reading, but you want to do your best to break that stuff up amongst your team, right? Again, if you want to do well in this game, it's a team game. There's no way one person can really win the game. Believe me, there's just too much happening, and I built that on purpose. There is so much happening that it's just not going to be possible for someone with a really, really skilled player to win. And I love playing these types of games because this game is more suited for a team of beginners than it is for a team that has one or two really, really good hackers on the game. You know, you can have 3 or 4 beginners together, and as long as they break up into groups and do their jobs diligently, you'll find that they'll score more points than the team with 1 or 2 really good hackers that aren't organized. Okay, absolutely perfect. All right, guys, let's wrap it up for the night. Everybody take care, okay? I'm going to get this video stuff squared away and get everything sent out. No problem. Everybody, good night. Take care, guys.